Keep the house. I'm done with this marriage. No papers mean no splitting assets. Marcus's message flashed on my phone screen as I stood in our home office, sorting through old boxes of his grandfather's paperwork. I didn't cry or shake. Instead, I felt strangely calm. My name is Diana. I'm 34 years old, and today I found out my husband of 8 years is leaving me for his 25-year-old yoga instructor, Ashley. The worst part? I was the one who signed him up for those yoga classes to help his back pain. I looked around the office, Marcus's grandfather's mahogany desk, the wall of family photos, and the filing cabinets filled with memories. Marcus thought he could just walk away because we never officially registered our marriage. Our wedding had been beautiful, a sunset ceremony in Hawaii with family and friends. Marcus had convinced me we didn't need legal paperwork. It's just government nonsense, he'd said. We know we're married. Young and in love, I believed him. Now I knew why he had insisted. My phone buzzed again. Ashley and I are coming tomorrow to pick up my things. Don't make this difficult. I ignored it and kept sorting through the boxes. Marcus's grandfather, Harold, had passed away recently, and as usual, I was left to handle everything. Harold had always liked me, often inviting me over for tea and telling me, "You've got a good head on your shoulders." Then I found it, a dusty old leather folder. Something about it caught my attention. When I opened it, my heart nearly stopped. A marriage certificate. Our marriage certificate. Marcus and I were legally married after all. The paperwork was official, signed, and dated 8 years ago. Suddenly, I remembered something Harold had told me before the wedding. Let an old man handle the paperwork. Consider it my gift. At the time, I thought he was just helping. But now I saw the truth. He had been protecting me. My phone buzzed again. Don't get any ideas about claiming anything. We both know there's no legal binding between us. I took a picture of the certificate and sent it to my best friend Julia, who was a lawyer. Minutes later, my phone rang. "Diana, this changes everything," Julia said excitedly. "Marcus can't just leave. He legally has to split assets with you." I thought about our house, the vacation property, and all the investments Marcus had put under his name. He thought he could take everything and walk away. He was wrong. "What should I do?" I asked. "Don't tell him yet," Julia advised. "Let me check the legal details first. Then we make our move." The next morning, Marcus walked in with Ashley, both in matching yoga outfits. "Diana, I hope you packed my things." "Let's not make this ugly," he said smugly. I sat at the kitchen counter, calmly sipping my coffee. "Actually, Marcus, we need to talk about the divorce." He laughed. "Divorce? There's nothing to divorce. We never filed the paperwork, remember?" I smiled. "Are you sure about that?" Marcus hesitated. Ashley shifted uncomfortably beside him. "What are you talking about?" he demanded. I took another sip of coffee. "You might want to check with a lawyer before touching anything. It would be a shame to make a mistake." His face turned red. "Are you threatening me?" "Not at all," I said. "Just giving you some advice. Your grandfather taught me to always know the facts before making decisions." At the mention of Harold, Marcus's confidence wavered. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. "Take your time," I said, standing up. "Talk to a lawyer. I'll be here when you're ready to divide our assets fairly." As I walked away, I heard Marcus whispering angrily to Ashley. I smiled to myself. My phone buzzed. A message from Julia. "Got everything we need. Ready to proceed whenever you are." I looked at Harold's photo on the wall and whispered, "Thank you." Marcus had no idea what was coming, but he was about to learn that karma, and his grandfather, always had the final say. The next few days brought a storm I'd been anticipating. Marcus's lawyer called mine, then called again, his tone shifting from dismissive to concerned to downright panicked. The marriage certificate wasn't just valid, it was ironclad. Harold hadn't just filed the paperwork, he'd made sure every detail was perfectly documented. I sat in Julia's office, watching her handle a call from Marcus's latest attorney. She put it on speaker so I could hear. "My client is willing to offer a settlement," the attorney said, his voice tight. "He's prepared to be generous." Julia smiled, catching my eye. "Generous? You mean he's willing to split their marital assets fairly as required by law?" "Now, let's be reasonable," the attorney countered. "Mr. Mitchell had these assets before their arrangement. Their marriage," Julia corrected firmly. And no, most of these assets were acquired during their 8-year marriage. I have documentation showing Mrs. Mitchell's substantial contributions to their acquisition. I thought about all the years I'd supported Marcus's career, managing our household while he climbed the corporate ladder. The houses we bought and renovated together, the investments we discussed over countless dinner tables. He'd always insisted on keeping everything in his name, for tax purposes, he claimed. The attorney cleared his throat. My client feels betrayed. He had no knowledge of this marriage certificate. Betrayed? Julia's voice was sharp. Your client participated in a legal marriage ceremony. The fact that he assumed no paperwork was filed doesn't negate his responsibilities. Would you like me to share the video of him exchanging vows? After the call ended, Julia turned to me. He's panicking. The prenup he thought he'd avoided by not filing paperwork? That works in your favor now. Without it, you're entitled to half of everything acquired during the marriage. I nodded, feeling a mix of satisfaction and sadness. Harold knew, didn't he? He knew Marcus would try something like this eventually. Harold Mitchell was a smart man, Julia agreed. The notes we found with the marriage certificate prove he submitted everything properly. He even paid the filing fees himself. That evening, I returned home to find Marcus sitting on our front steps, alone. Where's Ashley? I asked, stepping past him to unlock the door. She's taking some time to think, he muttered. Diana, we need to talk. I left the door open but didn't invite him in. Now you want to talk? Not when you were texting me about taking everything. He followed me into the kitchen, running his hands through his hair. A gesture I once found endearing. You don't understand. Ashley and I. It's real. This isn't just some fling. No, I said, turning to face him. You don't understand. This isn't about Ashley. This is about you thinking you could discard 8 years of marriage without consequences. I never meant to. To what? To hurt me? To steal everything we built together. To use a technicality to leave me with nothing. His face reddened. Grandpa had no right to file those papers without telling me. He had every right, I countered. He was protecting both of us. He knew what marriage meant. Real marriage, not just playing house until something younger came along. Marcus slumped against the counter. Ashley left, he admitted. When she found out about the legal issues, about having to wait for a divorce, she said she didn't sign up for this drama. I couldn't help but laugh. No, she signed up for a man she thought was free and clear. Funny how quickly people run when they realize actions have consequences. What do you want? He asked, his voice tired. What I've always wanted. Fairness. We built this life together, Marcus. I won't let you pretend those 8 years meant nothing. He looked around the kitchen we'd remodeled together, at the photos on the walls, the life we'd built. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the man I'd married. Grandpa left me a letter, he said quietly. In his desk. I found it yesterday. He pulled an envelope from his pocket, hands shaking slightly. He wrote it right after our wedding. Said he filed the papers because he saw how much you loved me, how good you were for me. He wanted to make sure I couldn't ruin it with my fear of commitment. I felt tears prick at my eyes but kept my voice steady. He was a wise man. I was so angry when I found out about the certificate, Marcus continued. But reading his letter, he knew me better than I knew myself. He saw what I might do, what I did do. It doesn't change anything, I said firmly. You still chose to leave, to try to take everything. He nodded, looking more defeated than I'd ever seen him. I know, I thought you should know that Grandpa did it because he loved us both. He wanted me to be better than this. I watched as he walked toward the door, shoulders slumped. At the threshold, he turned back. I'll have my lawyer contact Julia about a fair settlement. No more games. After you left, I sat in Harold's old chair, now placed in my home office. The leather was worn soft with age, carrying the wisdom of years. I pulled out the letter Harold had left for me, found tucked inside the folder with the marriage certificate. Dear Diana, it read, if you're reading this, it means you found the certificate and likely means you need it. I've watched you love my grandson with a patience and grace he doesn't yet deserve. I hope he grows into the man worthy of that love. But if he doesn't, know that I've made sure you're protected. Not just because it's right, but because you're the daughter I never had. Never let anyone convince you that you deserve less than everything you've worked for. I folded the letter carefully, placing it back in its envelope. Tomorrow would bring more negotiations, more legal discussions about dividing assets. But tonight, I felt at peace, protected by the foresight of a man who'd seen clearly what his grandson could not. 6 months after finding Harold's hidden marriage certificate, I stood in the freshly renovated kitchen of my new home. The morning light streamed through the windows, illuminating the space I'd designed exactly as I wanted. Half of the proceeds from selling our old house had given me the freedom to start fresh. Julia sat at my kitchen island, reviewing the final divorce settlement over coffee. "Everything's signed," she said, closing the folder with satisfaction. "The assets have been divided fairly, just as Harold would have wanted." I smiled, thinking of the old man's photograph that now sat on my mantel. He changed everything, didn't he? Not just with the certificate, but with his letters, too. The impact of Harold's letters had rippled beyond just Marcus and me. After our story got out, 3 other women in our social circle discovered their partners had used the same no papers tactic. Harold's foresight had inadvertently helped them too, setting a precedent for challenging these unofficial arrangements. "Have you heard from Marcus?" Julia asked, stirring her coffee. "Ashley left him for her surf instructor in Bali," I said, unable to suppress a small smile. "He's been sending me texts about regret and second chances." And I'm not interested in second chances with someone who only wanted me when he had nothing better lined up. I walked to the window, looking out at my new garden. Besides, I'm too busy living my best life. It was true, the divorce settlement had given me more than just financial security. It had given me freedom. Freedom to travel, to pursue my interests, to build something that was completely mine. Last week, I'd received an unexpected package from Harold's old law firm. Inside was another letter, this one dated just weeks before his death. "Dear Diana," it read, "I hope you never need the protection I put in place. But if you do, know that it comes with my blessing to build a life that makes you proud. You taught Marcus about love, even if he wasn't ready to learn. Now it's time to show the world what you can do when you're standing on your own." The doorbell rang, interrupting my thoughts. It was Harold's sister, Margaret, carrying a large box. "Found these while cleaning out my attic," she said, setting the box down. "Thought you should have them." Inside were photo albums and documents from Harold's early life. Pictures of him as a young lawyer, fighting for civil rights in the 60s. News clippings about cases he'd won for underdogs. Letters from grateful clients. "He always fought for what was right," Margaret said, her eyes misty. "Even when it wasn't popular. When he told me he'd filed your marriage certificate himself, I wasn't surprised. That was Harold, quietly making sure justice would prevail." We spent the afternoon going through the box, Margaret sharing stories about her brother's life. "You know," she said, "he talked about you all the time. Said you reminded him of himself. Someone who saw the best in people but wasn't afraid to stand up when it mattered." That evening after Margaret left, I added some of Harold's photos to my wall. They fit perfectly alongside my new life. A reminder that sometimes the people who impact us most profoundly are the ones who prepare us for battles we don't even know are coming. My phone buzzed with another text from Marcus. "I miss our life together. I was a fool." I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop to finish the book I'd been writing. A guide for women about protecting themselves legally in relationships. Harold's story was the opening chapter. A week later, I hosted a housewarming party. Friends filled my new home with laughter and warmth. Julia raised her glass for a toast. To Diana, who showed us all that karma has perfect timing. And to Harold Mitchell, who proved that sometimes our greatest allies are watching out for us even when we don't know we need them. As my guests mingled, I slipped away to my study for a quiet moment. Harold's photo seemed to twinkle at me from the wall. I touched the frame gently, thinking of all he'd set in motion with one simple act of love and foresight. "Thank you," I whispered to his image, "not just for the certificate, but for showing me that true family protects each other, even across time." My new life wasn't what I'd planned when I said my vows 8 years ago on that beach in Hawaii. It was better. It was authentic, built on a foundation of self-respect and gratitude for those who help us find our strength. Harold's last letter sat framed on my desk, its final lines visible in the setting sun. "Remember, dear Diana, sometimes the best legacy we can leave is ensuring that justice finds its way to those who deserve it most. You deserved every protection I could offer, and you deserve every joy that comes your way now. I was finally ready to embrace all that joy and all the adventures yet to come.